Hi everybody, welcome to Sophisticakes. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this 100% buttercream macrame piped cake. It's surprisingly simple as long as you have a few little tools to help you, a few little cheaters. So if this sounds interesting to you, please stay tuned and we'll get right to it after the intro. So I started with a pre-crumb coated 3-layer cake. My boss went ahead and got this prepped for me, so all I had to do was the finishing touches, which I always appreciate. So I'm using my standard crusting American buttercream that I have another tutorial on. I'll try to remember to add a link to that so that you can see how I make it and get the recipe. Now this cake was done, it's a very pale blush, almost ivory color. And then the piping I did on top was supposed to be white so that it could be some contrast in the colors. So I'm using my smoother just to smooth out those sides and then go in and fill in any places where you have some voids, some empty spaces. And I do like to go over my cake and do 1 or 2 final spins where you start and end close to the same place so that you don't have those vertical lines of the stopping of the turning of the turntable that can cause a problem. Now I put it in the refrigerator and I chilled it for 20 minutes and then I brought it out to do the final coat. And you'll see in the background there's my little purple water bottle. I've had a lot of questions about that lately, what I'm spraying on the cake. And what I'm spraying on the cake is just warm water. It doesn't even have to be warm, just water. And then you smooth it and it just helps you get that final really smooth coat. Now here's my first trick. Actually, my main trick. I am using a square cookie cutter or fondant cutter, depending on what you use it for, to mark out where my lines are gonna go. Now this is supposed to, the look of this cake is supposed to mimic yarn. So you don't have to get it perfect because yarn as it hangs doesn't hang completely straight. So don't worry about that, but I think as long as you have your, I guess you would call it your sketch or your markings, I can't think of the word I'm trying to go for, but have it sketched out on the cake, basically with a cutter, takes out all the guesswork. So that way all of your lines are even. Now you can go right on in and go in and pipe those lines. I'm using, I think it's a number 2 round tip by Wilton. I think it's a 2 or a 3, I'm not sure. But I didn't want the lines to be too heavy because I wanted them to be multiple lines. I did 2 lines in each little section to give it the look of yarn. Now when you start your line, you touch the surface, kind of raise it up a little bit, and then touch it down where you want the line to end. And this took a little time, so I might go ahead and just let you watch this, and I'll speed it up so that it doesn't take all of your day. Now I'm going to start doing the second line. You start and end at the same point as you did the first time. I do like to vary it up a little bit. Sometimes I'll let it kind of hang down on the inside. Sometimes I'll kind of push it up over the top of the line a little bit, just so you get some movement, some realism in there. Now here's where I am doing the yarn look across where the lines cross, just to make it look even more realistic like macrame. I did two little lines, they're like 1/4 inch wide lines across all of the joins. And then I do go back in after I've got those piped on there, and I use a dampened pointy brush, paintbrush, to smooth out where you start and ended the lines. So it looks like it's wrapped around. But you want it to almost crust over just a little tiny bit before you do that. But not so much crusting that you end up pulling it off. See, this is where I'm using my little brush. Just dipped it in water. Now for those outside lines, like the edge of the design, I wanted to do more of a knot. So I just piped just a ball. And then I go back in, and the trick to this is holding it close to the surface, kind of hovering over the surface a little bit, apply pressure to the bag, and then as you've gotten it the size you want, release pressure and kind of spin the tip a little bit in your hand. Just do a little motion with your wrist. And then go back in with your wet brush again and tap off any points. Now to get the strings that are hanging down, I just use the same tip. I'm just using the same piping bag through the entire thing. Start at the top and just kind of drag it down, release your pressure as you're towards the bottom, and pull away. It's actually very easy. It looks way more intimidating than it is. I think it's that way a lot with cake design, but I know easy for me to say because I've been doing it for a while. But a lot of the looks that look really intimidating are very quite simple. I think if you've watched my other videos, you can kind of get the gist of that I like to break it down into smaller parts so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. Because it can be overwhelming. You see a design, somebody sends you a picture of a design, and you think, I have no idea where to even start with this. And I like to start with the outer layers and work my way in. Tackle them one element at a time before you even start. Now here I'm going across the join where the tassels meet the rest of the pattern, and I'm doing the double lines again, just to get some unity, some cohesion with that design. Now this is a good example, this one right here, of where your pattern doesn't always meet up exactly the way you want it to. So I didn't have enough space to do all of the pattern down one more section like the other one. So what I did instead, so that it isn't so obvious, I just made those tassels longer so that the tassels are the same length as the tassels on the other ones. And it's an optical illusion. That can be the back of your cake, but just do that and then it looks cohesive. And then I just did a small bead border around the top because I didn't want that border to be more bulky than the rest of the design. I wanted it to be slightly messy, a little tiny bit messy, doesn't have to be perfect, but small. You could do the same pattern around the bottom if you wanted to, but it wasn't necessary in this design. They didn't need that. There, I'm apparently talking to my boss. One of these days you'll see her. I got her permission last week that I can get her on camera. She's a really good painter. She's really good at painting on cakes. So if you see a painted design on one of my cakes that I've done at work, more than likely she has done it. So I, at some point, would really like to get footage of her painting on a cake. We'll have to wait for that. I don't even know what we have next week. So I can't make any promises yet. And to finish off this cake, we used some flowers. We had flowers on another cake, and we used what we had extra to decorate this cake. Now, the rose was reaching the end of its life here. I mean, it was going to be fine for the order, but since it was kind of limp, I went ahead and I just piped some buttercream in between the petals just to bulk them up. Little trick there. As long as you can't see it, it gives it some life back. They don't need to know until they take the cake apart that you did that. So there you go, guys. 100% piped buttercream macrame cake with fresh flowers. Well, not so fresh, but they made it. I'm telling you too many secrets. So I hope you like what you saw. And if you did, please like, share, subscribe, do all the things. And we'll catch you the next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.